How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson across the fruited plain. I'm so glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Keeping CNN on in the background, it is just wall-to-wall Trump coverage. I guess it's good for the ratings. But it's all like, I guess, that the one right now, Trump allies sentenced to prison time, and a list of all the different people who've gone to prison. Of course, they're up in arms over the report that Donald Trump may allow Paul Manafort to play a role in planning his convention. He did the last time, did a pretty good convention in 2016 was over. It's just the hysteria out there, like how they think that if we just tell you one more time so sincerely, you know what, in fact, wasn't going to do this, but what the hell? There's a story out about PEPFAR. Do you recall what PEPFAR is? Ironically, a lot of people on the right don't support it anymore because it has something to do with foreign aid, but it actually was the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. PEPFAR was created under George W. Bush. It has massively cut HIV/AIDS deaths in Africa. In fact, it has improved not just life expectancy of those with HIV in Africa, but has reduced the spread of HIV. It was a program that George Bush, because he was guided by his Christian faith, and what people want to forget is that progressives attacked the PEPFAR program when Bush was president because it was based on his Christian faith. And now, perversely, it's some on the right attack PEPFAR, saying, oh, we can't be spending the money. It's actually an incredible investment. The rate of return to spare people HIV is incredible. It's a brilliant program. Saved 25 million people in 2 decades. You should note that Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize merely for showing up and not being George Bush. And George Bush has never gotten a global prize for PEPFAR. Inarguably one of the most successful programs ever launched by government in history to save people's lives. It's incredible. It's sad to see people on the right now hate it because Joe Biden and the Democrats decided to renew it. It's actually an incredible, incredible program. Now, here's the catch. I'm old enough to remember when Democrats and members of the media accused George W. Bush of being a racist. I'm old enough to remember this. In fact, in the year 2000, when George Bush first ran for president, he, as governor of Texas, oversaw the execution of a couple of white guys. What the white guys had done is they tied a black man up with chains, tied him to the back of their pickup truck, and dragged him down the road to his death. And the Democrats attacked George W. Bush for opposing hate crimes legislation in Texas. And he was challenged at the presidential debate. And Bush's response was, I sentenced him to death. What more should we have done? And the left was infuriated that he'd executed these people as opposed to charged with hate crimes because, the left doesn't believe in the death penalty. There was a no-win situation for Bush, who oversaw the execution of 2 men found guilty of murdering a black man, lynching him. And Bush's sin was he hadn't passed hate crimes legislation, which apparently, had he passed the hate crimes legislation, maybe these two men would not have engaged in a hate crime. It's like the left-wing theory that if you put up a no guns allowed sign, guns will not come into the area. The number of schools shot up in America that clearly didn't have no guns allowed signs. If only they had put up the no guns allowed signs. It's the logic of the left. They accused him of being a racist for it. They attacked George Bush for being Hitler-like. They attacked George Bush for being a despot. They attacked George Bush for being a would-be dictator whose strings were pulled by the puppet master Darth Cheney. I regularly, when I was at redstate.com, would write about George Bush and refer to him as George Chimney McBush Hitler Halliburton, because the editorial cartoonists of the left would caricature him as a monkey. He was accused of being a foot soldier for Halliburton's war for oil. They accused him of launching the entire war in Iraq for oil, not to oust Saddam Hussein. He was Hitler-like. They celebrated it when the protester threw the shoe at Bush. I mean, that was a big thing on Comedy Central and The Daily Show and the like. It was all cheering on this guy who had the audacity to throw a shoe at George Bush. And they were convinced he was a despot. John McCain was their hero, and George Bush had vilified him, and Karl Rove's dirty tricks in South Carolina, racist dirty tricks for that racist George Bush against John McCain. John McCain, the maverick, stood firm. John McCain, the maverick, he was a hero until that John McCain ran for president of the United States, and then he too was a racist would-be Hitler warmonger who, by the way, was too old and injured to be president of the United States. And maybe he still had PTSD, and maybe he would make us go to war, that warmonger John McCain, who would nuke Vietnam to settle the score if he was put in the White House, that racist John McCain. And then it was the racist Mitt Romney who put a dog on the roof of his vehicle, station wagon. And that Romney, you know, he's a Mormon. And you know what Mormons think of black people? He's clearly a racist. And he would just be another neocon warmonger who would keep the wars going abroad. Couldn't put that guy in the White House either. Nope. That racist, bigot, homophobe Mitt Romney. Along comes Donald Trump. And the reaction is, hey, this time he really is a racist. No, guys, this time he really is a homophobe. No, guys, this time he really is a bigot. Guys, for real now. We're real. We promise you, this guy really does want to be a dictator. Everything we said about the others, we admit it. We were exaggerating then. We're not exaggerating now. Please don't elect this guy. Bill Maher had that famous monologue where he essentially said that, guys, I know we've said this about the other ones, but we're serious this time. When a boy cries wolf so many times, I mean, we literally have like Aesop's fables on this. The little boy is in the field watching the sheep and he gets bored. And so he goes into the town and he cries, wolf, wolf, wolf. And the crowd comes running to defend the sheep and the boy laughs. And in the afternoon, the boy is bored again. And he runs back. He says, wolf, 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 wolf. And the crowd comes running again. And the boy just laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs. And in the evening, as the sun is getting low in the sky, a wolf appears on the horizon to come after the sheep. And the little boy is scared. He doesn't know what to do. And he starts screaming, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf. There really is a wolf. I'm not lying. There's a wolf. There's a wolf. There's a wolf. And the sheep get eaten because the crowd doesn't come because the little boy cried wolf so often they didn't believe him when the wolf really came. Hello, people on the left. Do you not remember basic grade school fables that teach you life's lessons? You did this to Bush. You did this to Romney. You did this to McCain. You did this to Trump. And now you're convinced if only we just more often, with greater force and disgust and lecturing and censorious tones, tell them this guy really is the would-be dictator. If only we do it now, they'll believe us. No, we won't. You got people on the left and in the media, reporters who are convinced. that if Donald Trump becomes president again, that on January 20th, 2029, the end of his constitutionally limited second term, he won't leave the office. They're convinced of it. What they're really saying is they are convinced that the American people will let it happen. They are convinced the Constitution's not strong enough to withstand him. They're convinced that somehow Donald Trump has this inordinate power, that the Secret Service will let him stay, the Supreme Court will let him stay, the Congress will let him stay, the people will let him stay, the military will let him stay, the states will let him stay, that somehow Donald Trump will be able to stay because, well, he will cancel elections or some such. It's simply not true. And you do see a level of projection because let's be real brutally honest here. The left would be glad to have a dictator so long as it was a progressive dictator. There are people on the right who believe we need to prop up Donald Trump and never surrender power again and do whatever we can to maintain power. There absolutely are. But there are just as many people on the left who believe it too. Again, you have progressive activists in Atlanta who've been firebombing places and shooting at police officers to stop a police training facility. The media doesn't really cover these people. The media doesn't cover this ongoing serial act of violence. But the left is fine with dictators. They just want left-wing dictators. Look at their Che Guevara worship. Look at their Cuban fixation. Look at their Venezuelan fixation. Look at how they treated George W. Bush. They now hail him as some grand hero. They hated and vilified George Bush when he was president of the United States. I have said, and will continue to say, that the best thing that will ever happen to Donald Trump is another Republican president. Because suddenly Donald Trump will look like a hero. Donald Trump will look like a steward of democracy. And maybe what they'll do is they'll say, well, you know, so what they've done with Ron DeSantis this past year during his campaign is we know we said Donald Trump's a dictator, but DeSantis really is smart enough to become one. That they'll give him damning praise. But they do it every time and they never learn their lesson. So it's really hard to believe all of their democracy versus dictatorship is on the ballot this November. No, you know what it is the American people participating in their democratic right to vote for president will vote for a guy who will be there for 4 years, who will then go away, whichever one it is, and they might die in office anyway. Donald Trump will not be a dictator and will not give up power once in the White House. He will give up power once he's in the White House. He will not be a dictator. He will give up power. He will give up power if only because he's forced by others to give up power, but he'll give up power. He has one term. He said, I'll be a dictator the first day. And what he meant is that he's going to sign all these executive orders, and by the stroke of a pen without the act of Congress, will be able to undo a lot of what Biden said. And then yet again, the media's like, see, he told us he's going to be a dictator, just like they did with Bloodbath, take it out of context, to exaggerate it, to elevate him to something more than he actually is. Donald Trump's just a man with a bad hairdo, who's a little bit orange, who's probably going to get elected president of the United States. And he'll be there for 4 years. And the media will complain about it the whole time, and it'll be great for their business. The ratings will be astronomical. And at the end of the 4 years, if not dead sooner because of age and cheeseburgers, he'll go away. And the media will be convinced whoever is his successor is actually the real dictator, and that Donald Trump will have stacked the deck for him. You know, I don't believe 2020 was stolen, but I am more and more convinced that in 2024, both sides are going to lie, cheat, and steal as best they can to stop the other side from winning, because both sides are so convinced the other side is going to do it that they themselves are going to be the ones to try it. And it all goes back to so much of the shrill rhetoric of the left, who have treated every Republican president as the second coming of Hitler. In fact, I dare say much of the left would say nicer things about Hitler than the Republicans, because you know how much the left hates the Jews these days. They start to sound like Hitler themselves. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, all right, I'm gonna bring you guys in on my obsession now. As you are aware, I am a horrible golfer, and I love to play. And it is great now because given the length of the day now, thanks to Spring Forward, I can still go to the gym after work and then go get on the golf course. And I'm horrible. Y'all, I'm bad. And I love to play. I rarely keep score. And as every golfer will tell you, I am way better as a golfer when I'm by myself than when I'm playing with people. I can occasionally birdie, get lots of pars, but man, I get bad. But it is, honestly, here's how I play golf. I go with friends, and we each have a really great cigar and either a few beers or some bourbon, and we just play and enjoy each other's company. So a buddy of mine who I bring him down to Barnsley Gardens, or did last year. We're planning on doing it again. I'll bring him down. We'll go to Barnsley Gardens up north of Atlanta, one of my favorite places to golf, and we'll hang out for a weekend. Cooler beer, some pizzas, golf. It's go fishing. We take our fishing rods, and now he put on my radar the Ohoopee Match Club, which is down near Cobbtown, Georgia. In my radio listening audience is Vidalia, Georgia, home of the Vidalia Onions, and I love the people down there. Hear from a lot of them, and this golf course is very near them. And I have heard of it and then just kind of like fell out of my mind that it existed. And now I'm like, I got to go play this place because they discourage you. This is my sort of golf. They discourage you, actively discourage you from keeping like a good score because they just want you to enjoy the game. And y'all, I am totally sold on playing golf somewhere where I am not forced or pressured to keep score, because I don't want to keep score because I'm really, really bad at it to begin with. So that's all I'll say. So if somebody down there wants to invite me, I'll come. All right, between high interest rates and Bidenomics running wild, there's always a real threat of a deep recession, and things aren't going well out there for the banks. You got these regional banks now. They're super worried about all their credit scores and their corporate debt that they're holding for 40 years. Swiss America has been helping individuals learn how to manage and preserve their hard-earned assets. And right now, Swiss America wants to help you. And one of the things that's happening with all the credit issues right now is banks and the government conspiring together, I would say, to push you into using plastic instead of your actual tangible assets to make purchases. In addition to some who think this might be on the verge of a social credit score, it really is a war on cash. Swiss America has a report on a war on cash, the secret war on cash. They want to give you completely for free. All you have to do is call or text 800-289-2646. Just mention my name, Eric Erickson. Call or text my name, Eric Erickson, to 800-289-2646 or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com/Eric. Message and data rates may apply. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. I want to play for you some audio, but first, here's a headline for you. This is in the Chicago Sun-Times. After transgender migrant was shot in Little Village, a cartel-tied Venezuelan was arrested but soon released. Aha! Now that we've got a transgender person shot, the media cares about the wave of illegal immigrants coming in. Early one mild morning last month, a transgender woman, that would be a man, who recently migrated from Venezuela, was waiting for a ride outside a Little Village nightclub when a driver pulled up and made an ominous remark in Spanish. "Bad gay," he allegedly said before firing 3 shots at the man around 4:30 a.m. on February 4th. He was struck in the groin and both legs and left in critical condition. He later told investigators that he and his friends had been partying at V-Live, a club he described as a meeting group for new arrivals from Venezuela. A witness also recounted the attack to police. Detectives began investigating the shooting as a hate crime and eventually honed in on the suspect, a 29-year-old Venezuelan man who was linked to a drug cartel by federal authorities. He had been arrested 2 days earlier in Austin and hit with a list of charges, including felonies for illegally possessing a gun and ammunition. While he had been identified as the gunman and police had recovered key evidence, Cook County prosecutors wouldn't bring charges. A spokesperson for the state's attorney's office said the case had been continued for additional investigation and no charging decision had been made. A law enforcement source said the victim stopped cooperating because he believed he was being targeted for being a sex worker and had fears about the suspect's association with a violent Venezuelan gang known in South America for human trafficking and drug sales. All right, you got that? Now, let me play you some audio. This is from the LAPD in Los Angeles. They're creating a special task force to investigate the burglarization of homes by gangs from Colombia, Ecuador, and elsewhere.
We have a significant increase in burglaries from organized groups that are outside this country, that are coming into the country, and they are targeting high-end residents. And we are addressing that specifically in a task force fashion through multi-agencies.
Lots of these break-ins have been recorded by security cameras in recent years. Detectives tell me many tourist burglars who've been arrested often entered the U.S. through a visa waiver program. Many were visiting from Chile and other South American countries. The LAPD says there have been more than 900 residential burglaries across the city since January.
Do you get the phrase they used? Tourist burglaries. That's what they're calling them, tourist burglaries. They take advantage of Joe Biden's lax immigration policies, and they come to this country to rob Americans. To rob Americans. There are internal police alerts in Chicago that violent gang members from Venezuela are part of the migrants in Chicago. There's the MS-13 gang that's around the country in suburban parts of Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. They are violent, and there are even more violent gangs in the United States made up of illegal immigrants coming into this country. You know, the most frustrating part of all of this is that when you raise these issues, the Democrats, it's almost like a catechism. When you raise the issue of the illegal immigrants and their crime, what the left says is more Americans are harmed each year by legal American residents than by illegal aliens. Actually, they say undocumented workers or undocumented migrants. It's everything's statistic. Joe Biden did this in his State of the Union speech with Lake and Riley. He immediately pivots to the number of legal people. He says legal. She was killed by an illegal. How many legal people commit crimes? It is a catechism of the left. They fall back on it. It's a matter of their apologetics for how they react to these situations. The Los Angeles Police Department is overwhelmed right now. Ironically, the new mayor in Los Angeles was a progressive member of Congress who called for defunding the police. She is now calling for an increase in police funding in Los Angeles because she needs more because of the outbreak of crime, in part due to these gangs of illegal aliens in Los Angeles. She now wants to increase the funding and the salaries for police officers in Los Angeles because she realizes she needs them. There's got to be a balance with the citizen voter and the business community, all of whom are victims of crimes, and the costs of the crimes then get passed on to consumers as insurance rates and the like go up. It has a real trickle-down effect to consumers and to citizens. And here's the thing. It was all easily foreseeable. But when conservatives raised the issue, they were vilified. I was invited to MSNBC or MSNBC, Meet the Press once a month. I was a regular participant on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd at the time, until I was one day on the show. I forget what the issue is, but I said Republicans got to remember the truth. That they talk about the truth, but they need to be committed to the truth. And progressive activists who hate me being on television attacked me because I had on Twitter suggested that surely the immigrants who were flooding the border during Trump's reelection weren't just organic. There had to be groups that were organizing this. And I was vilified for being a hypocrite, among other things, and hadn't been invited back yet. It also came about the time I said I'd support Trump in 2020. That probably had something to do with it, too. But it turns out I was right. There are non-governmental organizations getting funding, no less from the American government, that have been helping migrants get here. In fact, more than one informed person who is concerned about illegal immigration says if you go down to the Panamanian border with South America, you will see non-governmental organizations that are directing people of how to get into the United States. Some walk, many fly into Mexico City and drive up and then meet up with their coyotes and the drug cartels to get across the border. They're flooding the border, and it doesn't have to be so. It does not have to be so. And yet the Biden administration would have you believe there's nothing they could do. And it really has to do, frankly, with painting himself in a box. Because if Joe Biden were to come out now and say, okay, we're going to secure the border through executive action, then the issue becomes, why did you not do it sooner? As a result of that, they've had to step back from the idea of doing some sort of executive action because it would make him look bad for having dithered for so long. Mark Kerkorian has a piece in National Review on how to secure the border, how to fix the border, he calls it. If a Democrat is sworn in as president of the United States next January, it's not inconceivable that over the next 4 years, much of U.S. immigration law could come to resemble those archaic statutes that no one has bothered to repeal, like South Carolina's ban on keeping a horse in your bathtub. But if someone becomes president who actually wants to create a sustainable immigration regime that promotes the national interest, his or her priority should be to stabilize the border, and next would be to implement administrative and statutory changes that would prevent the problem from recurring. During a recent discussion of the misbegotten Schumer-Langford border bill, there was much talk about President Biden not needing new laws. That was true, but only partly. Biden, suffering from an acute case of Orange Man bad, went beyond what you'd expect of a new administration of the opposite party and created the border mess through 535 executive actions on immigration, undoing virtually every immigration measure undertaken by the Trump administration. Repairing that vandalism should be job number one if there is to be any hope of security at the border. But even under President Trump, when the border was under much better control, there was still too much infiltration, in large part because of statutory loopholes. Those have to be addressed, but since legislation necessarily takes longer than executive action, administrative changes can come first. The most urgent is the need to end catch and release. Any alien arriving at a port of entry or between them is required by law to be detained if he is not clearly and beyond a doubt entitled to be admitted and must be kept in detention until he is either lawfully admitted or deported. The detention mandate dates to the Ellis Island era and is required by the standard that civil rights pioneer Barbara Jordan stated in this article's epigraph, that those who should be kept out are kept out. That's from a quote from Barbara Jordan, chairwoman of the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform in 1995. She was a progressive member of Congress. Credibility in immigration policy can be summed up in one sentence. Those who should get in, those who should be kept out are kept out, and those who should not be here will be required to leave. So Kerkorian lays out a case that, yes, legislative action is needed, but it's not immediately necessary. It is necessary, but Joe Biden undid 535 Trump-era immigration executive orders, and those have allowed the situation to fester. And now we have criminal gangs coming into this country, and they're calling them tourists. Tourist burglaries. where illegal aliens come into this country organized as gangs before they get here and work together to rob Americans in Los Angeles and elsewhere. And Los Angeles, which is already desperate to hire more police officers, is having to divert resources to form task force to shut down the operation. In Illinois, in Chicago, they've got Venezuelan gangs. You got MS-13. You got all of these around this country. It's easily foreseeable. It's easily predictable. These sorts of things would happen. The Biden administration has turned a blind eye to it, and the Biden administration has denied they've contributed to the problem when, in fact, the Biden administration has exacerbated the problem. The border was not secure when Donald Trump was president. That is a fact. You may not like it, but it was a fact. But the fact is also he did a far better job limiting the flow of people into this country, because when Biden got elected, he made sure everybody in Central and South America knew, orange man gone, I'm here, come. And they took him at his word, and now Biden pretends he never did that, and yet he did. And the situation continues to spiral out of control, and Joe Biden is on course to lose in November because of it. The chicken's coming home to roost. Now, let me tell you about Americans for Prosperity and their website, Bidenomics.com. They, Americans for Prosperity, have built this beautiful website, Bidenomics.com, to educate Americans on what's happening with Joe Biden and what's happening with his Bidenomics plan. So let me go to this website for you. So it really is the website, Bidenomics.com. He wrapped himself in the label and didn't buy the domain. What they do is they take Joe Biden's quotes, like, for example, we're bringing down prices across the board. That's the rhetoric, and then they show the reality. Cost of living is up 18% and climbing. Or wages are up after being adjusted for inflation. The reality, real wages and take-home pay are both down. My economic plan is working. It's reducing the deficit. The reality is a $2 trillion annual deficit, the new normal. It goes on and on and on and on. The quotes, the updates, the reliable facts brought to you by Americans for Prosperity, bringing you the truth about Bidenomics. It is campaign malpractice that Biden didn't buy Bidenomics.com, but it is remarkably great that Americans for Prosperity did. Go to Bidenomics.com, find out the truth about Bidenomics and the Joe Biden economic record. Very easy to share with your friends and family, and it is completely fact-based. Bidenomics.com, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity. Hello there, it is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program. This is going to make some of you extremely agitated with me, but I want to say it because, you know, I keep nothing from you. Someone commented the other day on my social media, I don't want you on my radio station. You hate Trump. Y'all, I hate everybody. Isabella Maria DeLuca. She should be in prison for being a self-styled social media influencer, but nope. She is going to jail. She was at the Capitol on January 6th. She's worked in, I guess, the Trump administration or some such. And I see people trying to make her some sort of victim. She's going to jail for exercising her First Amendment rights. She was just at the Capitol. She used her influential social media presence to challenge the Biden administration. That is not why they're prosecuting her. Can you not read the indictment, you mind-numbed automaton liars? She entered the Capitol through a broken window and helped other rioters steal a table that was then used by others to assault police officers. That's why they're prosecuting her. Based on the review of evidence, DeLuca can be seen, 1, within the restricted area around the Capitol, 2, recording video and taking photographs, 3, entering the Senate terrace rooms mezzanine through a broken window on the lower west terrace of the Capitol, and 4, removing and aiding and abetting other rioters and removing a table from a Senate room and passing it to rioters outside through another broken window. The table was then used to assault law enforcement officers guarding the lower west terrace tunnel as described. That's why she's being prosecuted. Stop lying about these people. I do not care. I do not care about your affinity for the people you've decided are martyrs for storming into the U.S. Capitol. There are lots of grandmothers who I care about who were charged with crimes, and they just happened to wander in because they saw the big crowd go in, and they should never have been prosecuted. Many of them weren't, by the way, but some were. But you're really going to lie about this girl, Isabella Maria DeLuca, and claim that she's a victim for exercising her free speech rights? No, the hell she's not. She climbed in through a broken window, helped steal a table that was used to assault police officers. If proven at trial, she's guilty and should go to jail. When you lionize people and lie about them, you discredit yourselves. It's the same thing the left continues to do about Donald Trump. When they elevate everything, you guys minimize everything. I'm not going to get worked up about Biden administration prosecuting someone for going through a broken window into the Capitol, helping steal a table that was used to assault police officers. And you people who claim to love police officers and law enforcement, you probably shouldn't either. Same with Peter Navarro. The man's going to jail because the man was found guilty and needs to go to jail. He's going to go serve time. If he didn't want to serve time, he shouldn't have done what he did. I have very little sympathy for this rewriting of history from either side right now. Both side only cares about lying about their own side and vilifying the other side when there's got to be real truth.